Thank you for staying with us. Our guest on this segment is Mr. Agbenga Adebayo, who's President, Association of Telecom Operators of Nigeria, ALTON. Yes, we were talking about data and how this tax is likely to affect use of data across the country.
Certainly, yes. There are 5 services that government is aiming to introduce, or we to introduce the 9% tax. Data is one of them, and pay TV is also one of them. What that also means is that even most likely your home TV, your digital TV, you will survive the same 9%. Data today is the driver of everything, because over the data network you can do voice, you can do text transmission, you can do text, you can do messaging, you can do video, you can do social media, and the rest of them. This 9% will also hit on that. So it means that if today your data package is, for instance, 3,000 naira in a month, the value will be less by 9%. And it's also of concern that while all prices of things are all going up, telecom has to be very stable in pricing. Mm-hmm. The introduction of this additional 9% will certainly have a major impact both on the service providers and on the consumers. And I think this is where we need to be careful. We are more concerned that the long-term implication on us is more than the short-term benefit. And that's why government needs to be careful. You recall that many years ago, a minister of government did say to us that telecom was not meant for the poor people. Now a minister of blessed memory, may his soul rest in peace. But the thing there is that the attempt of this 9% tax is not different from the fact that certain people will just be exempted from being able to use the service. Yes. While people run several thousands of naira bills in a month today, people run only a few hundreds.
Yeah, if government is saying, from what the minister said, and what NCC has been pursuing for years, to expand the basket of those who have data services, penetration of the internet, because they have seen the value of it.
That's right.
In fact, advocacy had been to bring down the price.
That's right.
So that you can get more people using the service.
Right. That's right.
So what effect is this going to have? You're trying to woo people to use the internet, to educate their minds, and at the same time, you're saying they have to pay more for that service.
What it does is it just make this access, it just make affordability more difficult for people. And if we are trying to increase also penetration, it will come to a point where services will become available for the people, but the people cannot afford to buy the service. And we need to be careful. I think the trend of telecom in the world today is that the world is looking at telecom as a social driver and a social mobilizer. And while other services are priced very high, telecom services are priced very lowly. That's in order to enable more people access the service. If you look at the benefit of telecom, even on our daily spending, instead of taking a taxi, you make a call. Instead of making a visit, you make a call. Instead of going attending a meeting, you do a video conference. And all this has its own socio-economic benefit and cost savings. By the time you make it non-affordable for the people, it becomes a lot more difficult. And we must remember that the country today is said to be in recession. Each one of us is feeling the pain of this. The implication of this 9% additional tax on people is that it's just made the pain of recession more severe on the people.
Yeah, and it's interesting that we're just not trying to do what the rest of the world is doing. We know of many cities across, you have just returned from overseas, many cities in the world where there are hotspots.
That's right.
Government provides internet. You go there and you use for free because of the benefits.
That's right.
So instead of making our lives easier by giving us places where we can use the internet freely, government is saying you got to pay through the nose for it.
You're right. I was passing through Heathrow Airport just the day before yesterday, and there was free Wi-Fi available once I got off the car, and I had the service all through until my flight.
Is there free Wi-Fi at our airport?
None. Not that I'm aware of. I saw a signpost when I came in that there is Wi-Fi spot available by the MMA, but I tried it, but I didn't have any connection. But you see, the thing there is that access was provided. I've had, on account of the access provided, one has been able to do other socio-economic activity, which by extension will have tax benefit to government, other than just giving me the access. So the fact that you have given me an access, it actually gives me the room to have other spends. whether buying something online, whether subscribing to something, whether taking a business decision, and the rest of them. So all of this has its own network of benefit that comes from accessibility and affordability. And I imagine today, if our public sector is fully digitized, meaning that we have e-government in everything that we do, even the cost of governance will become lower.
Will be lower,
so
definitely.
My appeal to government is that government should consider expanding the tax nets than taxing already existing infrastructure. Government should be aware that we've had other successful industries in times past, that on account of one government policy or the other that's unfavorable, it has had significant impact on having those sectors thriving. Telecom should not be one of them, because the success recorded even by other success sectors of the economy today, like the banking and finance, for example, is traceable to this support provided by telecom services. And for the airline, the same thing. So telecom is actually the driver of infrastructures, and I think government should tread very carefully on this introduction of bill and the rest of them.
Okay. Now, we're being joined from Abuja by a social media influencer, Japhet Omojua. Good morning, Japhet. Japhet, can you hear me? Good morning, Japhet.
I can hear you. Good morning.
Great. Now, you are a social media influencer. Maybe you followed our discussion about data a few seconds ago, even though the entire thing is about multiple taxation and especially this 9% communication consumption bill, which has been sent to the National Assembly. Now, you work on social media, which means that you need data services all the time. What are your thoughts about this tax that's supposed to be put on data as well as SMS and voice and pay TV?
I think that it hasn't been thought through, because if it has been thought through, the government would not go ahead with something like that. The reason is because I heard him mentioning, for instance, our broadband penetration. We are currently at 14%, according to the NCC. They are targeting 30% by 2018, which of course is not going to happen, especially if something like this happens. And the biggest loser in this is the consumer. But there are more losers than the consumer. The telecom providers will lose, the pay TV providers will lose, the government itself will lose. This is how the government will lose. By the time you raise the bar of access to the internet, by the time you make the internet either not available or too expensive, you make sure that a lot more people who would have been able to access the internet to either access classes abroad, to either attend conferences from Nigeria, to either buy and sell. There's a lot of, there are billions of naira being exchanged on the Nigerian internet space. So when you create this barrier that comes with the taxes, you're basically saying you cannot get in anymore, except for the privileged people. And the biggest losers here are the consumers. Then the next biggest losers are the consumers who don't have the sort of money that those that are at the top of the pyramid have. There are people that their own access to the internet is just to be able to spend 100 naira per day and access the internet. Now, it looks like that's not something, that's not enough, but that 100 naira worth of data is enough for them to do a few things to even make some money. So, look, if the government cannot help things happen, if the government cannot help an industry to continue to produce, to thrive, to become sophisticated, it can at least step away and let people evolve by themselves. I've seen situations in Nigeria where without governments, industries, people thrive.